Hi guys, and welcome back to Marketing the Madness, where you're dialing in to some of our special episodes where we were recording live on stage at Marketing the Madness Live at the Drum back in October. And I have got another corker of an episode for you. So without further ado, let's go and meet our next guest.
So this is the first problem. That says, is TV dead? And my presentation is actually TV is dead. So the question is not what I'm going to talk about, but what I will talk about is that TV isn't dead, obviously, because otherwise this would be a very short conversation. Crimtan are a global managed service programmatic partner. We work with agencies, lots of independent agencies around the world, and also clients. And we see millions and millions of transactions on a daily basis. So we deal a lot with data, and data is a very important part of the business. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is data driven. So if you like data, this is going to be interesting. If you hate data, you're probably in the wrong room. I was doing a talk about 2 weeks ago, and pretty much every single person who was before me had written a book. And I thought, I haven't written a book. And I stood up and I didn't obviously talk about my book. And you could hear people in the crowd going, he hasn't written a book, he must be shit. So I haven't written a book. And I also haven't been on Katie's podcast. So if that makes me shit as well, then apologies. But one day we'll do it. So I want to talk about the resurgence of television, and this is really important from a cultural perspective, but also a lot of the resurgence of television is driven by technology. And technology has not only changed the physical TV set, but it's also driven a lot of behavioural change. So streaming platforms and CTV have been a really important part of why the potential death of TV has just not happened at all. And I remember people used to talk about out of home as well, right? Posters, they're going to die, right? No one's going to be able to get any value out of posters when you're surrounded by digital technology. And sort of the online revolution, again, was one of the reasons why everyone said, well, TV's going to die, right? It's not going to, it can't survive. And actually, it's one of the reasons why it is, and doing amazingly well. And the second part is programmatic. And the reason that programmatic is important is because it's capitalizing on the eyeballs. So if you think about your own viewing habits and how they've changed over the last 10 years, if you then have eyeballs moving into a particular part of the media mix, but you can't capitalize on that from a advertising perspective, then there's a misalignment. So programmatic absolutely fills in that gap. Some of the technological shifts are really important. And when TV was first launched in early 1900s, it took almost 60 years to get from that sort of big walnut, horrible looking box to a colour TV. And colour TV was significant because it meant that people could start to see what they actually saw themselves on a TV screen, and it brought depth, and it brought, I think, more innovation. And then the next big thing was the shift from big boxes to flat screens, so digital TV sets. And that then started to, I think, create more interest in TV sets. TV sets got bigger. Technology like HD and UHD started to improve the viewer experience. So the viewing experience has always been a really important part of this revolution. And then from a technical perspective, broadcasters switched to digital broadcasting, which obviously has implications for the number of channels that you can serve, but also there were big cost benefits as well. And then the race to sort of platform TV and the launch of Netflix, which was 2012, which is amazing to think, it's been around for over 10 years. So the point is that these technological innovations happen very quickly, and things are happening all the time now, and they will continue to do so, which will over time make TV even more important. So does anyone know what the first TV ad ever was? No? 1941. It was Bulova, watch manufacturer in the US, just before a baseball match. Can't remember which one it was. And the ad cost $9. And here it is.
America runs on Bulova time.
This was a massive moment, because all of a sudden this became the opportunity for advertising to start to appear in program content. And this then started the process of building a huge advertising business based on TV and the importance of TV. So streaming has been one of those things that's really been an innovation to drive both advertising revenue, but the eyeballs in the first place. So if you think about how we all watch TV now, we've moved from sitting in front of a TV and receiving stuff to demanding what we want to watch. We have infinite choice. And when you have infinite choice, it says a lot about what you watch, right? So what I watch says a lot about my personality, my household situation, and yours will all be different. And so that ability to choose what you watch and be surrounded by infinite choice almost is an incredibly big change from sitting in front of a TV set and getting whatever the broadcasters played out. And that led to binge watching. So we've all done it. I think we all hate doing it because you're up at 2:00 in the morning watching shows that you think, oh my God, I'll just watch one more. But it's had a big impact on the way that people consume TV and the volume of TV that people now watch and TV content. And the other side of this, of course, is the content itself. So let's not forget that some of these streaming platforms now have enormous budgets. Apple TV's budget is absolutely enormous relative to the size of the audiences that they generate, because they see it as a marketing tool, right? So if they can talk about Apple TV and produce fantastic content, so Severance, for example, I think costs something like $1 million an episode, but they see that as marketing, right? So this is marketing cost for them, and it allows them to talk about Apple in a marketing capacity. And then the devices that you watch it, you're not tethered to the TV at home. You can watch it on other devices. You can watch it on the train or an airplane, whatever it may be. So distribution massively increased, quality of content massively increased, and the way we watch it massively changed. So this is how people are watching TV in the last 10 years. So you can see there the dark bars are linear TV. So that's gradual decline. The shocking pink color, I think that is, shows you the growth in streaming and CTV, to the point where in 2025 it's now actually slightly bigger than linear TV. So more eyeballs are watching streaming CTV content than linear TV. So that's a massive shift in the trend. But it also means the total number of minutes that people watch is now more in 25 than it was 5 years ago. So pretty amazing. And that fragmentation has caused a big difference in the way that not only people watch TV, but also the way that advertisers and clients can access that audience. Because the big shows, back in the 1960s, Coronation Street was delivering audience of 20 million, like 20 million viewers in one episode. Now, some of the bigger audiences in 2020 are around sort of 8-9 million. This year, I think the biggest audience is something like 6 million. So it's in that sort of, that downward trajectory. So, what is causing that? So the real reason that audiences are declining is actually to do with the planets. So on the left-hand side, in the black bars, you can see the distance between Neptune and Mercury. Okay, so this is measured in astrological units, which is the distance from Earth to the Sun. And if you track that distance over time since 1975, you can see that sort of gradual closing of the distance between the planets. If you then overlay that with the highest Nielsen ratings for a single show, you can start to see a very, very close correlation, okay? So the distance between those two planets and the size of the big audiences, as measured by Nielsen, uncanny correlation. So why is that? So this gravitational tug of war, which is making the planets come closer together, is causing what is known as celestial interference. And celestial interference messes with broadcast signals, which means that people cannot watch the programs that they want to watch. And so the ratings, or the GRPs, on planet Earth decline. And that is what's causing that decline. So nothing to do with fragmentation. It's all to do with the distance between Mercury and Neptune. Now, the elephant in the room for anyone that's kind of living in this space at the moment is YouTube, right? Is YouTube TV? So who thinks YouTube is TV? Who thinks YouTube isn't TV? The reality is, who gives a toss, right? We actually don't care. And the reason is because YouTube delivers a highly engaged audience. There is more YouTube watched on TV sets now in the US than any other device. So I think YouTube has moved from that sort of UGC platform to something that's really important. And for advertisers, it's a really important part of the media mix. So we shouldn't really care too much about the classification. It's more about, is there an audience? Is it a good audience? Is it the audience I want to reach? And if so, how do I do it? So YouTube and all the other streaming platforms form an integral part of CTV. And CTV ad spend, as you can see here on this chart, is growing at a rapid rate. Why is that happening? Well, we've already said a lot of it is due to technology, availability of content and devices. The eyeballs are moving there, so there's more and more eyeballs in the space. And the spend is starting to hit some very important milestones. So in 2022, 21 billion took CTV spend globally past global spend on radio, global spend on digital out of home, global spend on magazines. So it's a really big part of the mix now. And one of the unique things about addressable TV, CTV, is of course that you have all that's brilliant about TV, that shared viewing experience, that 2 or 3 people in the room, big screen, big beautiful TVs now, and the addressability. So the fact that you can be much more precise in targeting audiences, and the entry points, of course, to TV now have come down hugely. If you wanted to buy a TV campaign in London 10, 15 years ago, you were probably looking at £200,000 for a campaign, small campaign. Now, if you want to just isolate certain regions or areas within London, for example, you could run a campaign for £20,000. So the barriers to entry have changed significantly, and you've only got to look at some of the mood music from people like ITV who are saying, they want to go after the mid tail of advertiser who historically couldn't afford TV, but now you can, right? And this is really exciting. And not only that, but more of this audience is now moving into ad-supported content. So for advertisers, like one of the issues historically has been that, yes, eyeballs are moving into streaming platforms, but those streaming platforms were subscription platforms, so you couldn't actually advertise in them. Now that's changing. In the last 10 years, the biggest shift actually is from the youth audiences who've moved from 30% of their content being ad-supported to now 65%. And all the other demographic groups are moving in that direction. So, as a set of audiences, we now have more people watching more TV in content that is addressable, that can be served with messages. But we've got attention in the way that people price value. So broadcasters historically have always wanted fixed prices. They like security. They like to know how much their revenue per 30 seconds is going to be for a particular show. Advertisers more want that flexibility, that dynamic nature in pricing. So I'll pay a bit more for something over here, and I want to pay a bit less for something over here. So the reality is that where you end up is this sort of hybrid model, and I think that's what we see in the market. So tram lines, floor pricing, and then dynamic depending on demand. So I think that's the way it's going, and obviously more and more content is now coming online. So TV broadcasters have these huge archive libraries of content. That's now starting to be surfaced. That has a value. People are watching it. So the trick then is, how do you then surface it? How do you then make sure that the audiences can see it? This is not me, but this is hopefully an ad that most people in this room would recognize. Who knows what this is? Exactly. So this is the gorilla from the Cadbury's Dairy Milk ads from, 15 years ago probably. The point is that creative, and we have talked about this a lot already today, creative is really, really important. So we can do all these wonderful things from a technology perspective. We can find all these wonderful audiences. We can spend all this money on building out these cohorts and trying to understand the behavioural aspects of people. But if we put a shit ad in front of them, it's wasting your money, right? Absolute waste of money. So I can't remember the last ad that made me think, oh, I really like that ad. Right? How many people have watched that ad in the last couple of months and thought, wow, that was really good? So creative is really important. And I think sometimes we lose, we lose the importance of this. If you look at any stats anywhere, the value of the creative is somewhere between 40 and 50% of the overall mix. So if you're not spending time, money, effort on the creative, you are wasting your money and you'll get lower engagement. There is also a brand perception issue, and particularly when you have in CTV, you have more and more ad availability which are non-skippable, right? So if you think about watching shows on Amazon Prime, when the ads come on, they come on, right? You can't skip them, really frustrating, but you can't skip them. And then you are subjected to whatever the technology platforms and the advertisers have decided to serve you. So it can either be amazing, right? It could be really well targeted, beautiful, creative, or it can be hideous. Yeah, it can be the same ad time after time after time and not relevant. And I think we've all had a mixture of both. So the important thing here is thinking about how you build proper creative that is platform specific. If you're going to run advertising messaging on CTV, think about the platforms that you're running it on and make sure that the creative is right for the platform as well as the audiences. There's a lot of data signals that you can use. There's lots of ways in connected TV to start to get information back. Could be QR codes, could be bid stream data. There's lots of ways that data can be collected, but if you're not doing it, you're not going to learn from it, and you won't be able to adapt as you go. And if you're not doing it, you can bet your ass that your competitor set will be. So you're going to get left behind. And then the final piece in the jigsaw is programmatic. And programmatic is a sort of catch-all for lots of things. But really what we're talking about programmatic is piping. So the ability to build a frictionless relationship between supply and demand. Okay? It doesn't mean that pricing changes. It doesn't mean that people aren't important in the mix anymore. It just simplifies and reduces the friction points between the buy side and the sell side. And obviously that is massively driven by technology. So automation, the ability to be much more precise about surfacing audiences, serving them the right kind of content, be that geographical, be that messaging, be that language, whatever it may be, right? Lots of ability to adapt content. And in a market where we've seen, and we are seeing lots and lots of fragmentation, there is still a lot of work that goes on in the background to try and organize systems, structures, processes in a more unified way. So I think all of this is coming, and this again is all about reducing the friction points. But fundamentally, programmatic because of its ability to drive addressable and drive preciseness, means that those ad dollars now are starting to follow the eyeballs. And that's been a key to unlocking it. And the point is that, 10 years ago, only 5% of all TV was traded programmatically. Now that's 75% and rising. So most predictions are that by 2030, it's going to be close to 95%. So if you don't have a programmatic capability, or you don't have the ability to really leverage programmatic, you're going to get left behind. So how can you take advantage? Well, I think creative relevance I've talked about, that's absolutely the most important thing. Mitigating things like ad fraud. Everyone talks about ad fraud and the best ways to mitigate it. There are lots of things you can do, but you need to participate in devising whitelists, in thinking about the types of channels, the types of audiences that you want to reach, and then using appropriate technology to try and mitigate that. Global scale. So access to global scale means that you've got price parity. It means you can get best-in-class access to markets, types of formats, innovations, but deploy them locally, regionally. So the flexibility that gives you is a really important part of the programmatic piece. And then choosing your partners, be they data partners, be they activation partners, be they insight partners, working with lots of partners who have specialism in these areas so that the joined up end result is something that you want to do. And it's a mix between what you want to do yourself. So how much of this do you want to bring in-house, and how much of it do you want to outsource? And finding those partners that can help you to achieve that is a key part of solving this. And then the harsh reality of multiple DSPs, right? If you're a DV360 fan, that's great, right? You're going to have a great capability within DV360, but then you're never going to be able to access audiences that watch Amazon Prime or watch Disney or some of the other platforms. So actually, I think Disney is on DV360 at the moment. But fragmentation is going to mean you're going to need more and more DSPs. So one DSP is not going to be enough. So what does TV look like in the future? Well, I think TV it looks in the future a little bit like it does now, but the big areas of improvement, and this is where I will unfortunately have to mention the word AI, but this is where AI will make a big difference, is reducing that friction between finding stuff that you want to watch and watching it. So I don't know about you, but I spend probably 10 minutes most evenings like scrolling through going, what am I going to watch? What am I going to watch? Oh yeah, I've seen that. That looks okay. So improving the search engine and improving the search and surfacing of content that's more appropriate. I'm always nervous about using the word personalization because I think it's more about relevance. Personalization sometimes can feel creepy and a bit weird. Relevance is much better, right? It's more about, okay, that's the kind of content that people like I want to watch. So that's a big area. And then activating ads. At the moment, it's quite difficult to build, render, and deploy video ads on the fly. As processing speeds increase, that will become possible. So broadcast quality videos, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, at some point reasonably soon, you'll be able to build on the fly. That's pretty amazing. Visual technologies, some are hit, some are miss. I remember Olympics 2012. I watched the Olympics in 3D TV. I've still got a drawer full of 3D glasses somewhere. 3D TV was okay, but it doesn't exist anymore. Red button TV, loads of examples of innovations that don't work. So AR, VR, 360, some of these may be quite niche, some of them may turn out to be really important, but constantly looking at ways that technology can change the way that we consume the product. And then finally, I think the most important thing is that focal point in the house, that TV that points to the seats we sit in, to the conversations we have, that shared viewing experience, so different to the way we consume content on a phone or a laptop, and that's a really important part of building brand awareness, brand emotions, and brand engagement. So the TV at the center of the room being the most important part, and then everything else around it is going to get driven by technology. So that's where we see it. That's me. That is AI, by the way. Oh, that's another bit of AI. But that was the only part of the presentation that actually had AI. So if you want to find out more, that's me. Hopefully that was useful. We've got time for questions? No? Good.
So I hope you loved that episode just as much as I did. Honestly, there has been so much gold content from Marketing in the Madness Live, and you are not going to want to miss out. So if you haven't already, wherever you're listening, please make sure you subscribe. And if you want to join us live at the next event, which is coming up in March 2026, go and connect with me on LinkedIn, Katie Street, and make sure you follow the Marketing in the Madness Live page, and I will make sure that you get one of our VIP invites.